The Sibyls are probably best known from the Cumaean Sibyl who's featured in the Aeneid. There's this episode in Book 6 where Aeneas arrives in Italy and he needs to figure out what his next steps are. And so he goes to visit this temple, this shrine in Cumae, and he sees this woman who we call the Sibyl. Aeneas is a soldier and a refugee. He's not a religious authority. All he knows is that he's been having these visions and dreams, and recently a vision appeared to him of the ghost of his recently dead father, Anchises, who told him that he needs to visit him to get some information. But the problem is that Anchises is dead and resides in the underworld. In order to get to the underworld, Aeneas needs a little bit of guidance, and that's where the Sibyl comes in. This is where we meet Aeneas in the beginning of Book 6 of the Aeneid, with his arrival at Cumae. So I'm going to read to you a little bit from Stanley Lombardo's translation. I'll link this down below. This is the translation that I would recommend. So this is from the opening of Book 6. But Aeneas, on a mission of his own, sought the high holy places of Apollo, and the Sibyl's deeps, the immense caverns, where the prophetic god from Delos breathes into her mind and soul and opens the future. The Sibyl of Cumae guides Aeneas on his journey down to the underworld. She's with him for most of Book 6, and she lets him know all of this information that he otherwise would not have had access to. She and the other Sibyls from antiquity are the subject of today's video. I want to thank Nathan00G for this request. I love this topic. This is something that I've been spending a lot of time thinking about. Divination, prophecy, prophetic figures like the Sibyls. There's so much to talk about, so let's get into it. Hey friends, welcome and welcome back to the channel. If you're new here, my name is Kate. This is Hearth of Haemonia, and we're here to discover and unpack the beliefs held by ancient Greek and Roman people, and sometimes their neighbors. We dig into everything, from mythology to magical practice, philosophy, and all those related subjects. If this kind of thing appeals to you, feel free to subscribe. And if you have any thoughts about today's topic, I invite you to share them in the comments. My comment section is very friendly, and many thanks for that. You may think of the Sibyl as a Roman priesthood, especially if your exposure to them comes from Virgil. But actually, the Sibyls were originally a Greek priesthood, and actually their name as we have it comes from ancient Greek, although Pausanias has this line about how that even might come from Libya. This priesthood is ancient. So ancient, in fact, that the Greeks who were writing about it didn't really know where it came from. The important thing to note is that the Sibyl is not just one person. It's a title, a religious title that referred to different priestesses with prophetic abilities located at different prophetic temples throughout Greek and Roman territory. A very late source, Lactantius, who is an advisor to Constantine I, lists 10 Sibyls. And actually some of the Renaissance art that we have depicting these figures shows more than one. So here on the screen you have Raphael's painting, which is just called The Sibyls. And then here are some from Michelangelo's Sistine Chapel. Typically, the Sibyls were just named based on the temple that they were attached to. So the Sibyl of Delphi, the Sibyl of Dodona, the Sibyl of Cumae, and their personal names are not always recorded. We have a couple, but for the most part, they're just referred to as the Sibyl. Their own self is less important than the work that they do. And we'll see kind of why that is as we go through what it meant to be a Sibyl and their identity and how all of that works together. Their job was to deliver prophecies to those who sought them out. So these would have been religious officials that would have been officially petitioned by people wanting to get an oracle for themselves or having a question that they wanted answered or addressed. They would submit the question to the Sibyl, and then the Sibyl would respond. Like all prophecy in antiquity, the Sibyl's proclamations were famously obscure. A cynical view might be that if they're obscure, then they're never really wrong. But the less cynical view is that the god works in mysterious ways. And so the divine speech that is coming from these prophetesses is not going to necessarily make sense until you sit down and think about it.